Howdy everyone. I thought we'd take a look back at the worst Sony movies today, and honestly, this list was a bit of a drag to do because I just dislike Sony so much, and I've heard people had already talked about it and covered it, but I saw Emoji Movie because I thought, I should talk about. A few people asked me to, and I thought, well, should kind of in the field where I should, but I really didn't want to give money to it, and I just they advertised it so much, and it didn't even make it to theaters in Australia till about when I posted it, like a few days before I posted it. I really put a lot of intense time in getting this one out quickly because I really wanted to talk about it, and I mainly focused on Emoji Movie for this one because I was just like, let's talk about these ones as well, which are really bad, and really the whole concept of Sony is bad. That's the thing. And the fact that they do make these animated movies that are just trying to tune in to what we all know and put all these begrudging actors in them and all this terrible animation, these terrible stories, and very occasionally with things like Angry Birds, they'll try to make something relatively good and relatively smart out of it with, poop jokes and the really annoying stuff, but relatively good. Obviously the writers cared about it, but then you get stuff like Smurfs where there's just very little effort. And the thing about Smurfs too that I did like is that it was kind of trying to give a sort of original story. It didn't feel quite as just, look, Smurfs are in the real world, da 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 da. No, that was kind of trying to put a story that was very lazy, kind of stupid story, but kind of a nice family message there. But it was just astonishing that I couldn't actually find the names of the voice actors on IMDb originally, because I was like, I know this is Katy Perry, but why is her name not there? And I had to really look around and fish around to find, okay, she's just uncredited as the main role. I'm just like, well, I don't blame any of the voice actors. I mean, yeah, just obviously, if you're a massive singer, you probably don't want people to know I did this terrible a role, and it's not a good role. I really don't believe Katy Perry is a good voice actor. It's debatable to many if she's a good singer, because if you listen to her live without auto-tune, she's just not quite as quite there. But kids don't mind, and I think this was aimed at a younger audience. I think that's the thing, because when Katy Perry was kind of in the advertising and stuff, it was just all young kids in the crowds, which is odd because it's kind of, I guess it's better for the parents to take them. The parents are more keen because they remember Smurfs and there's something there. But it's just lazy, and I don't really like any of those because they do just capitalize, just like Transformers or Michael Bay. This one, Open Season was just nothing. That's the thing. And like so many of these Sony movies, these ones are brief because there's so little to talk about with them, because they are just the same thing. Kind of garbage jokes with the really annoying kind of characters. And the voice acting was okay for this one, but it's just like, it's so meh. It's so forgettable. It even looks kind of average animation, like in the background and stuff, and it's like until they dropped the budget. Wasn't a fan of this one. The setting was kind of original, I guess. I don't mind the concept of, a few campfire stories and stuff, but they're basically just, the two main characters are basically just trying to annoy and scare each other and just speaking louder than it, trying to speak over top of each other, and it was, ugh, now he's eating the crap, ugh. And like I didn't show it there, but they actually do show you him slowly eating the fecal matter. And it's just like, oh god. And it didn't work particularly well the first time, but I really do think Sony can do good animated movies. Hotel Transylvania is another good example of the anchoring effect to me, because I think both those movies, despite having Adam Sandler in them, and despite being a little annoying at times, are good movies with good writing. A bit like Angry Birds, it's okay. It's not the best, but it's okay, and because of that effect of, we just expect all Sony movies to be garbage now, even when they're okay, it's, well, at least they're getting what they deserve, because most of what the animated movies are bad. And this one here, you know, as I've mentioned before in crossovers, I kept it very brief because I know I talked about it in Worst Cartoon Crossovers, I think it was. And yeah, there wasn't much to say, so it's just like, yeah, just look at this scene. It really says all of it, really. The fact that, oh, Megafish, and it was all advertising to me, like, of just WWF. So, yeah, it wasn't much to say on that. And, of course, 8 Crazy Nights, which you can watch any part of this one, and it's just kind of Sandler being a jerk, and you really don't know where they're going with it. It's just a very poor interpretation of Hanukkah. I would guess, you know, people would not want this to be associated with Hanukkah because, I don't know, this is the only Hanukkah movie I've seen, to be honest. Certainly the only Hanukkah animated movie, and I'm like, I think less of Hanukkah because of seeing this, and just making fun of all the people in it, and just everyone is put in a bad light in this movie, pretty much except Sandler, who is the only one who should really be put in a bad light because he is just an irredeemable character. It's not like he's a kid in this. He's probably aimed to be about Sandler's age. And the voices, oh my god, Whitey sounds so bad. And it even finishes on a disgusting note. It's just, bad all the way through. I hear Sandler's a really nice guy, though. I wouldn't get that from movies like that, but, you know, good for him if he's good. It's just, maybe he had a really poor director or something like that for that one. I was just like, you've got to do these really annoying voices. You're going to do all 3 of the main characters' voices even more annoying than the last. And he's like, well, okay, if you think that'll work. And, you know, yeah, certainly not a favorite of mine. And as I said, Angry Birds, very acceptably good. Like, I didn't like some of the jokes. They're still kind of Sony material. But anyway, Emoji Movie. You've heard me tear this apart. In fact, I delivered the last 5 minutes of this review straight to tearing it apart. It's just, You may notice some of the footage is quite limited. That is because, like, there was no footage available, and it hasn't been released on DVD at the time, except for the trailers, so I pretty much just had to rely on that. But every time I walk into my local shopping center, it's on the side of buses, it's on the TVs saying, "Look, meet Pooh." It's just, okay, yeah, but like, why would you do that to kids? It's like, kids do like smarter stuff than that. It's just like, but we're feeding them garbage, and that's a really big thing to me because this is at the age where they remember this stuff. And it's like, what if we got a freaking fidget spinner movie? It's just like, that's what we're telling them by buying this, that we want fidget spinner movies and Tetris the movie and all these other dumb ideas with, I probably shook the camera there, sorry, with all this stupid content. And it's just not smart either. It was just such a bad experience when I went to the theater to see this, and it really was. Like, no one else was interested. A lot of people didn't laugh, rather. No one laughed. A lot of people left during the movie. About halfway through, a lot of people had left. There were a few teens, and a couple had gotten bored and gone back to their iPhones, you know, or not their iPhones. I'm not an old man. The smartphones, you know, though some do use iPhones. But like, yeah, and by the end, it was just, I even heard that in the comments, other people saying, I went to see this at the cinema. By the end, everyone had left except my family. My sister was crying, and it's just, it had such an effect on people because I guess it wasn't terrible. I mean, there's a couple of, the characters weren't interesting. I can't say anything redeemable about this because it annoyed me so much. It wasn't just the concept of it. The movie itself was still bad. I'm sorry, I'm probably just getting angry, but this one really did annoy me. Even the way the characters kind of mug to the camera and just, And the idea that, like, all of them are alive in your phone, and it's just speaking down to kids so much. I don't know, I got the name wrong here. I know his name isn't Meh. It's just like, at the time I was just saying, I gotta be meh, as I was doing the footage, so it was just driving me mad. I'm just trying to think of something constructive I can add to this movie. Well, I guess making a text world out of emojis is kind of creative, fanficky, might be able to be, it could be done by a 12-year-old. Who am I kidding? This story could be put together by a 12-year-old. I would love to hear, but even like when I was hearing, younger viewers from the comments talking about this one, there wasn't that many people disagreeing with me. Most were like, yeah, this was terrible. I felt really spoken down to. And that's the thing. A lot of the teenagers are even more prone to this, like sensitive to being spoken down to than I was really sensitive at 14, 13 to be spoken down to by my teachers and stuff. So they are just going to roll their eyes at this and be really annoyed. So, you can say the adults overreact, but the teenagers will react more because they're the ones being insulted. And, adults will see these as well, but it was specifically aimed there, and not a fan. But anyway, I wanted to get through the Sony movies and just say how crap the Emoji Movie was, and not give it too much time, because I was like, we shouldn't be focusing on it. We acknowledged that it was garbage and we shouldn't see it, and a couple of people did say they wouldn't see the Emoji Movie because of this, so I thought, that is wonderful. I am so glad. If I could have some effect like that, it's just wonderful. Like, it gives Sony a little less profits, even if it's only, a couple of $100 less. It's well worth it. Then it's all been worth it. Yeah, but overall, I'm advertising my commentaries. I didn't advertise my Patreon for the last video because I was just like, you guys probably need a break from this, and I don't want people tuning out at the end, because sometimes I have little extras and stuff at the end. But it is still an important thing. But if it happens, it happens. I understand. Not everyone has disposable income and that sort of thing. So anyway, thanks very much for tuning in, guys. It was a real pleasure going through these. Well, it wasn't a pleasure, but it was good to talk about them and say how crap the Emoji Movie was. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.